This is the processing. We're taking the legs off. Again, this is my first day of processing, so very uneducated, well, not educated, but very, very elementary at it. Taking the feet off, hard to find the valley. Once you get it, but initially a little bit difficult to find. Made the mistake on these early birds of cutting the windpipe. I could not pull the heads off just as they were. I think my cuts on the initial kill were not good enough to cut all of the kind of muscle around there. So I, after these, stopped cutting the windpipe, and that way the windpipe and the esophagus came out together from the neck. And so when I pulled the everything out, it all came out together. Sometimes these tail feathers, just with a bad scald, wouldn't all come off. Pliers or hands typically work to pull them. Again, this is, if you watch the scalding video, this is where perfecting the scald's gonna help in the future. So then I'm going to flip it over and take off the oil sac that's on top of the tail. You can definitely see when you're in it and when you're not in it, so second cut just to make sure all of it was removed. Flip them over, kind of just nick the skin to get access to the crop and the windpipe. That's the windpipe, just tearing all that connective tissue around it so it'll pull out easier. And then there's the crop in my fingers right there. Separating that from the connective tissue so it'll pull out easier as well. Pull those both out of the neck completely. Flip them over, make a cut just kind of above the pubic bone. Then just rip open kind of that fatty stuff that's there in the tissue and expose the organs. You'll want to take the fat off of the gizzard. Right there's the gizzard, and there's all that good fat around it. And then you want to scoop kind of and take apart all of the connective tissue that's holding all the organs together, and just kind of run your hand around and scoop it all out. If you can try and get all the way up to get the crop in your hands when you pull out the organs, that's best. I found that really hard to do, so I pulled as much as I could out and then would go back in and get the rest out. Pull everything out that you can, and then take your knife and cut on either side of the vent hole, and then at the bottom. And then this is scooping out the lungs. There's a little diaphragm basically that you've got to kind of get under to get the lungs out. Just making sure everything's clean. Got all the lungs, all parts of the lungs. And then give it a good rinse, the outside and the inside. and then just cut a hole in the skin for the legs and tuck the legs under. Figured out a better way to do this towards the end of the day, but that's basically it for chicken processing.